Well, good evening, and what a terrific crowd. I'm Dr. Sandra Wong. I'm a surgical oncologist, a health services researcher, and the dean of the Emory School of Medicine. I'm so honored to be here with you tonight. And I know we are meant to spend the next couple of minutes talking about the future of cancer. And aren't we all really just interested in the future? Because we all have a stake in it. And I will say I was a little bit daunted by the topic for tonight because it could have been a really, really long talk. But luckily for all of you, we don't have any slides, and so we'll keep it to the high points. As I was thinking about what comments I might make this evening, I remember an event that I went to about 20 years ago. And it was a panel discussion with a group of medical students who were possibly interested in studying cancer or being an oncologist. And so there was a basic scientist, a medical oncologist who was a clinical trialist, and me, a surgical oncologist and a health services researcher studying the delivery of cancer care. And during this discussion, it became really apparent to everybody who was sitting there that cancer represents a really unique ecosystem. During the discussion, the basic scientist was talking about everything that got him really excited in the lab. But really importantly, he emphasized how great it was when the discoveries that they made could be taken from bench to bedside. Hand off to the medical oncologist, who could then put together clinical trials to actually test out some of these discoveries. How wonderful. And then warm hand off to me, because if you get to the point where a health services researcher is studying everything you've discovered and trying to get it out to the greater populations, you've made a lot of progress. So in many ways, the way that I was able to close the loop on all of that was because as a practicing surgeon, we saw questions, we saw problems, and brought those problems along with biospecimens and the patient data back to the lab, and that closed the loop. It was a tremendous ecosystem. And I can't imagine that any student would have left that night not wanting to be an oncologist, quite frankly. So if I may, I'd like to talk about that ecosystem and really use it to describe how we at Emory take delivery science and discovery science to further our fight against cancer. We have simply amazing scientists and amazing clinicians here at Emory and at the Winship Cancer Institute. We actually have really particular strengths in a lot of areas. And I would say an important thing for all of you to realize is that we take those discoveries and we actually use our energy to translate those discoveries. One thing is necessary, but the other thing is key and critical to the patients in front of us. So I will say that we have about a week ago, the occasion to celebrate Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday. Terrific. 9 years ago, he was diagnosed with metastatic melanoma. Almost certainly, if that was further back than then, we wouldn't have been able to celebrate his 100th birthday. Through advanced treatments, he's a survivor. And so that reminds me that we have tremendous immunology here at Emory. Rafi Ahmed, the director of our Emory Vaccine Center and a professor in our microbiology and immunology department, was actually honored earlier this year at the American Association of Cancer Research meeting for groundbreaking work that he's done. His life's work has actually been around the understanding of memory T-cell differentiation and antiviral T and B cell immunity. A long way of saying that he really studies the immune system. And his passion is in taking those discoveries and translating them into groundbreaking medicines. During the course of some of his studies, he identified the inhibitory receptor called PD-1. And today, we use PD-1 inhibitors to treat cancer. It's one of the cornerstones of immunotherapy. And so Dr. Ahmed's discoveries represent some of the underpinnings of immunotherapy. Absolutely groundbreaking changes. And I will tell you, I remember the day when we learned about these discoveries. I remember hearing about the study and reading the paper. And today, about 10 years later, the landscape doesn't even look the same, particularly for diseases like melanoma, a disease that I treat. And immunotherapy continues to make staggering changes in how we treat some of our most serious and advanced cancers. Our scientists and our clinician investigators also focus on translating discoveries to better prediction of patient outcomes. That's really important. We don't want to throw the kitchen sink at everybody. So Sagar Lonio, who's our department chair of hematology and medical oncology, recently published the landmark multiple myeloma research study. And what it did was it took a huge cohort of patients with a lot of biospecimens and clinical data and really added to our understanding of how multiple myeloma's progression from a treatable condition to a high-risk condition actually happens. Better able to predict which patients that happens to. And it really gave us some unprecedented insights into the genetic diversity and subtypes of the disease. Truly groundbreaking work in an area that needs a lot more studying. That gives us a really great example of critical genetic markers that can actually lead us to better disease prediction. I know many of you are probably aware of the phrase watchful waiting. That's really scary for a lot of things, but it also is better predicted if we're able to inform those patients that can really be watched very carefully and which patients we probably need to be a little bit more aggressive with surveillance and may need earlier treatment. It's a wonderful advance. And it really speaks to some of the great work that's happening at Emory. Now, I know all of you have heard of artificial intelligence, AI. And like many of you, I wonder how we can use AI better, how we can use the power of discovery in that field to treat our patients. AI is everywhere. Anant Metabuchi, who is one of our professors in biomedical engineering and a terrific leader of our AI in health initiatives, actually uses AI to better predict outcomes for our patients with cancer. So some of his current work involves developing AI-based tools to help support how we make decisions for our patients. One recent example is an AI-based computational pathology tool that was designed to better manage treatment for patients with ductal carcinoma in situ, a form of pre-invasive breast cancer. The tool actually gives data to help clinicians tell our patients which personalized or targeted treatments they may be better suited for. It identifies those patients with DCIS that have low-risk disease or high-risk disease. It's truly phenomenal because otherwise we're stuck with the old kind of markers and variables that we've had. This is a true advancement. He also has used this to help with pathology and radiology predictors for all sorts of cancers. It's really amazing. So that represents, in a very kind of just a couple selected highlights, some of the discoveries that we're making. Then the question is, how do we actually take those discoveries from bench or lab to bedside? And that's where clinical trials come into play. So many of you are familiar with clinical trials and why they're so important. They're really important for our patients. Did you know that by participating in clinical trials and having access to clinical trials that we get new discoveries out to our patients sooner? About 2/3 of the currently FDA-approved medications were available to our patients sooner because we had those trials open to our population. And we get patients coming from all over in order to participate in those clinical trials. Suresh Ramalingam, who's the director of our Winship Cancer Institute, was the principal investigator of one of these practice-changing trials. I was in the audience when he presented this trial to a group at the American Society of Clinical Oncology. I can't show you what the slides looked like, but you couldn't miss it from the back of the room. It was practice-changing data. He got a standing ovation. That's the kind of trials we're doing here at Winship. It was absolutely amazing, providing new hope to patients with stage 3 lung cancer who'd gone through multiple rounds of other treatment. In this trial, which actually took a type of EGFR type of mutation inhibitor and compared it to placebo, a sugar pill, if you will. And the results were phenomenal. That drug extended disease-free or progression-free survival by more than 3 years. Absolutely amazing. And our patients got it here first, and now this is practice changing. So patients around the world are getting it. Truly, it's discoveries like these and practice changing clinical trials like these that have changed the trajectory of cancer care. So now, where does health services research or delivery science come into play? I will say that as somebody who really just loves data, I'd love to just share a couple of data points with you. I think the discoveries are really terrific, but you might be asking, what's the evidence here? Like, how do we know we're actually making progress? Over the last 20 years, there's been a 33% reduction in our age-adjusted cancer death rate. That's 4.1 million cancer deaths that have been avoided in the last 20 years. We've learned a lot. We've translated those discoveries. We've gotten people to improve their lifestyles. We've gotten better with prevention, and we've gotten better with treatment, because we're not quite at the point of preventing all cancers yet. And yet, what weighs on me is that all the progress we've made is not equally felt. It's not equally felt in certain cancer types, and it's definitely not equally felt in the way that we can get these treatments out to all of our patients. I always like to say we're so proud when we can deliver high-quality cancer care. So proud. We love the high tech. We love the great discoveries. But I always feel like we can't say that we deliver high-quality cancer care unless we can deliver it to everybody, unless we can make access a cornerstone of everything we do. So I've spent a lot of time looking at health equity and ensuring health equity. And a lot of health equity has to do with access. And so I'm really proud to be a part of a center where we aim to train more healthcare providers. So the chances are 25% higher when you have treatment at a National Cancer Institute Comprehensive Cancer Center like we have. And yet we know that we still have a lot of room to move to provide that access. We want to make sure that anybody who needs to come here and wants to come here can get an appointment. And once that appointment happens, we want to make sure that people feel like they have a seamless patient experience. So I'm really proud to be a part of a cancer institute that has oncology nurse residency programs. We train our own. We're able to actually train brand new graduates to have them specialize in cancer care and hopefully stay with us so they can take care of the people who need it here in our area. I'm really proud to be part of a place where we train residents and fellows to be oncologists. It's really terrific, and we have great trainees. So I think it's really important to think about how we do that and how we do that better. Now, my own work, at least some of my recent work, has, and I'll tell you about just two quick things that we've been working on. So I'm interested in patient-reported outcomes, the outcomes that matter most to our patients. And you can't know that necessarily by a survival rate. You can't necessarily know that by looking at stats. We only know that by asking the patients. And so some of my work has been developing and piloting how we collect patient-reported outcomes electronically. We let patients let us know how they're doing. And for my particular interest, it's for patients who've had a cancer operation, and using digital tools, they report their symptoms so that we can help them manage their symptoms better, and we can help them stay out of the hospital. We can keep them out of our emergency departments so they can recover better at home. Some of my other work has really been around looking at rural healthcare. Now, we're sitting here in Metro Atlanta. We are not that far away from some rural areas, but we are in a city. But it should come as no surprise to all of you that we take care of a lot of rural patients. We live in a rural state. And so some of the work that we've done is thinking about how we can serve all of our patients better, not just the ones who are close in proximity. And in doing so, I think we'll be able to better take care of fully 19 or 20% of the US population. So a lot of my research work, quite frankly, has been around thinking about how we deliver care and how we deliver care better. So I will say, in closing, that I told you a little bit about some of the research we're doing. With my apologies to my clinician investigators and researcher colleagues who I've left out, I will say that there's an urgent need for us to do more research. And we need to increase federal support for medical science and health, public health to accelerate the pace of the progress. We've done so much, we've come so far, we can't stop now. So I'm always in awe of the little things that we do on a daily basis, because I know that those little things add up to big things. And I'm so appreciative to all of you for being here with us tonight, because I know you care about those little things, and together we will make those big things happen. Thank you so much.